Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing a lot of important topics and answering a lot of questions that I get from you guys pretty much on a weekly and sometimes even daily basis. The number one question we're going to cover is how safe is it really to invest in the Dominican Republic and how safe is it to live here on a daily basis? So stay tuned and let's go check all of the answers out. Guys, the number one question I would like to discuss is something that I get every time I have a client potentially interested in investing in this country is it really safe to invest in the Dominican Republic? What is the safety like here? Now, I can tell you from my own personal perspective, I've been living here for almost 6 years now, and I've lived in major European cities in a lot of places, and this is for sure by far the place I've felt the safest living at. As I told you, and you can see from many of my videos, and a lot of people who purchase here, they feel safer than in most places in the world. This is an extremely safe country in general. Tourists are heavily protected, and also investing in smart areas, gated communities that have security 24/7, such as Cap Cana, Punta Cana Resort. Punta Cana in general is very protected, but especially within a gated community, you're for sure much safer than investing, of course, in a rural area or in some hood in Santo Domingo. That is also why it's very important to work with somebody who's reputable locally, who can point you to a good area, and of course not just invest in the cheapest thing you find online, which may actually very likely not be in one of the safest areas possible. And guys, continuing with the questions, the second one I get a lot of times when showing it as well is how safe is daily life in the Dominican Republic, especially for a foreign woman living on her own or living in general in Punta Cana. It is very safe. Here you can walk around in the streets alone. Nobody's gonna molest you, nobody's gonna bother you at all, nobody's gonna tell you anything. It's extremely safe. The one thing that's going to happen very often in the Dominican Republic is people are gonna say hi to you on the street. And it's not a bad thing, it's not something that's frowned upon here. It's actually very common, and it's considered rude if you don't say hi back, which is something that is not the most common in Europe, for example, or in the US. Of course, you see people in the street, you don't even look at them, you ignore them completely. Here, that's not the case. Here, people are extremely friendly. And when you walk in the street, you see anybody, they say hi, they smile, but it's done in a good way, not in a weird or freaky way at all. So that's not something that should scare you. That was a big difference for me when I first moved here. I had to adjust to that because I come from a country where that's definitely not common practice. But in general, I can tell you that daily life for a woman here, for me, it feels extremely safe. I can walk alone at night. I can walk anywhere here to the gym. Of course, in Cap Cana, you can do anything. No, nothing's ever going to happen to you. But even in the Punta Cana area in Blue Mall, I walk alone at night all the time. Absolutely nothing happens. It's extremely safe and protected everywhere. Question number 3 that I also get very commonly is, can foreigners legally and securely own property in the Dominican Republic, or could the government just take it away someday? So the number one thing I want to mention here, the government is not going to take your property away, all right? So essentially, as a foreigner here, you own your property, you get a title with your name on it. Even if you're a foreigner, doesn't matter, it's your property 100% on the property title. There's no time limitation after which the government takes it away. You don't have to create a corporation because you cannot own locally or directly like in some other countries. As a physical person, you buy it, it's yours 100%. Nobody's taking it away, okay? That's a really important aspect of investing in the DR. That's actually one of the main reasons people even invest here, because in many other countries, as I mentioned, you cannot invest so easily as a foreigner. You also always have to have kind of a structure set up to be able to invest at all. So yes, you can definitely own 100% legally and securely in the Dominican Republic, and this entire country runs on tourism, right? So this is why tourists are so protected. There's even a division of police called Politur, which is the police for tourists, right? And they patrol all the touristic areas all the time, just to make sure the tourist is protected, right? And investors as well. Again, real estate here is heavily dependent on foreign investment. The locals aren't the ones that invest. 90% or even more than that is Canadians, Americans, and of course from certain parts of Europe as well. This is why they allow so many people to invest here, because that's what sustains the economy in general in the Dominican Republic. So yes, you can definitely own 100% and nobody will take it away from you. On the contrary, they want you to invest, they want you to come here. And this is why we even have the laws of Confutura of the tax exemption, because we want to invite the foreign investment and not make it more complicated. Guys, question number 4 would be, is Punta Cana actually a real city or is it just a tourism zone? And what does life here actually look like long term? Now, if you had asked me this question 5, 6, or even a couple more years ago, I would have said it's mostly a tourism zone, right? There weren't many things, there weren't many businesses. It was mostly, a place you would come and spend like 7 to 10 days, maybe a month at most. But in the past years, it's been developing at an incredible rate. There's so many new businesses opening up, big supermarket chains, furniture stores. In the past 5 years, we've had at least 7 furniture stores open up. We used to have 1 or 2 max, right? So because of so many amenities and businesses coming to the area, it's definitely becoming a major city in the Dominican Republic, where in the past, again, it used to just be a place you would come and vacation for a week. Just in the past month, we've had a supermarket called Bravo open up, which is one of the biggest supermarket chains in the whole country. In the downtown area is where it opened up. We also had Merca Jumbo open up, which is another very, very important business that came, a supermarket, which I will record in the coming weeks as soon as the people leave Punta Cana a little, because we've had an incredible amount of people that came here. Everything is packed and it's really hard to record videos with a million people walking by. But yeah, again, all of these businesses came and so many more are coming. In the next 2 years only, we're going to see a massive change in Punta Cana that we're seeing every single year. And another very important thing for Punta Cana, it's going to sound funny to all of you, but it's a really big deal to all of us. They have built the first ever overpass in Punta Cana. So for all of you that have been here, we have that main highway basically that connects Bávaro, Punta Cana, and Cap Cana. Well, next to the airport, they have now built the first overpass in one of the busiest intersections that we have on that highway, which changed the traffic so much and helped so much, avoid some of the crowdest moments that used to happen there and a lot of traffic accidents that used to happen there. So now we have an actual overpass. Big deal, very big deal here. First of many, we hope. And it only took like 4 to 5 months to build. And now it's fully operating. Just in time for the holiday dates. And another thing that has happened, which made a massive difference, again, not a big deal to you, but here, very, very major, is that they have put lights. So street lights on the highway, all the way up to downtown, and I believe a bit more as well. We had zero lights on the highway, so in night when you would drive, it was super dark, and of course it caused a bit more accidents as well because the visibility was very limited. Now we actually have street lights, everything is bright, and Punta Cana now at night looks so much different with that huge section actually being fully lit up. So those are 2 major changes, and that's just going to keep evolving, keep expanding. Infrastructure is being worked on everywhere, and just looking like a major city more and more, and definitely way more comfortable to live in by the day. Guys, the next one I get is, what surprised you the most about living here full-time? So as some of you may know, the first time I came here, it was initially just for vacation, as many people do as well. What surprised me a lot when I first came here is that there's so many things that are available for a full-time life, that it is does not only revolve about the beach and the ocean itself and all of that, right? So there's actually so many activities you can do on a daily basis. So I found myself to be in a place where I can actually see myself living full time. Everything was available, because people used to tell me like, oh yeah, that's a third world country, nothing's available, there's no water, you can't brush your teeth with the water from the tap. Completely not true, right? So you can definitely brush your teeth with tap water, especially in Cap Cana, where water is being processed, filtered on a daily basis. And also, what surprised me the most for sure, and the reason that I stayed here, is that I saw just how much opportunity there was to do business, right? Because the island, again, is very attractive. Millions of tourists come here every year. We are breaking records every year. And there's so many businesses that you can open up and just thrive and make so much money, because you could for sure beat a lot of the businesses here. There's opportunities for everything, right? And one of the biggest opportunities I saw, of course, was real estate, because even back in the day when I came here and I started researching a little bit for myself, like if I were the buyer, it was horrible, right? Nobody would respond. The level of service was terrible. There was so much opportunity. I saw that, you can buy in premium places, amazing opportunity, a lot of development even back then. but just the customer service was horrible. Nobody would help me properly. Nobody spoke fluent English. A lot of conflicting information. So when I saw that, for me, it was a no-brainer, to come here and actually start a business that's actually going to give the clients, international clients, the level of experience, the level of service that they were used to, right, back at home. That's for me. That was for sure something that was very surprising. That was lacking so much. And this same thing applies to many other businesses. So you can open, absolutely anything. You can open paddle courses. You can open laundry services, right? So all of these basic things you're very much used to back home, right? They do not exist here, or the ones that do, they're subpar. Of course, there's a couple of new ones that were opened by foreigners that are thriving. But again, there's so many opportunities you can do. You can open businesses up and just excel at them because the competition is limited. And even if there is, I'm sure you could beat it. And question number 6, a very, very important one for all of us, is how is healthcare really in the Dominican Republic? Is it good enough for somebody planning to move or retire here? The answer to this question is that the healthcare is great. Again, depending on the level of service you need, there's just different places to go to, and you have to know where to go for certain things. Now, before I start going into this, it's important to know that you will have to have health insurance here. So once you move here, you have to get your local health insurance. There's so many different to choose from. There's good ones, better ones, not so good ones. Again, you need somebody locally to help you and tell you, hey, get this one, don't get that one, for several reasons. For anything here, you need somebody locally to help you with all of this, because it just helps so much having somebody with local insights who've been through that and can tell you, hey, avoid this one, get that one. It's just normal in any country pretty much. So once you get your health care, you have your health insurance. The cost, of course, is going to depend on your age, on your previous status. Health-wise, they always check, of course, if you have any pre-existing conditions. That's how they call it. And of course, based on all of that, they give you different quotations, right, for different health insurances and different levels, of course. You have the premium level, you have the one below, depending on how much they cover, if there's deductibles or not. I can give you a case. In my case, for example, I used to pay about $300 a month for the premium one with 0 deductibles. That used to cover me pretty much in all hospitals. So, for example, if I had to stay at a hospital, I would pay 0, right? It would cover all the medicine, hospital stay, bed, everything, which is nice. Again, we hope we don't get to use it much, but it's nice to know that in case it happens, you're fully covered in the Dominican Republic, which of course I know is not the case in the US or Canada. No, actually, Canada is different. In the US, mostly, it's not the case. But also closer to the area of Cap Cana and Punta Cana, there's a clinic called Punta Cana Doctors, which is a 24/7 emergency clinic. So no matter what happens at any time of the day, it's 10 minutes away or a minute away, depending where you're located, whether in Cap Cana or Punta Cana Resort. And there you can, of course, get the initial assistance needed. It's also important to mention that the best doctors of the Dominican Republic logically are located in Santo Domingo, in the capital, right? The best specialists, cardiologists, urologists, neurologists, anything you need, they're going to be located mostly in Santo Domingo. However, every week they do come to Punta Cana. So Punta Cana Doctors typically is the place they come to, and they come on different days. For example, and this is of course not exactly the way it is, but to give you an idea, Mondays is when the cardiologist comes, Tuesday, urologist, etc. Right? So there's always a certain date of the week when they come from Santo Domingo, and you can make an appointment in advance with them in case you need to get a checkup, whatever you need to do. You have the best specialist of the country come to Punta Cana, exactly, so you can actually schedule a consultation with them without having to go to Santo Domingo. Now, worst case scenario, something major happens, you need surgery, you need something way more complicated, right, of that level. There is an air ambulance, and there's also, of course, the ambulance that takes you, a road ambulance, right, that would take you to Santo Domingo for any major procedures as such. You can also do them in Punta Cana. You can have surgery in Punta Cana. However, I would always recommend to go with specialists who are located in Santo Domingo in the major hospitals there. It's a 2.5 hour drive, or with the air ambulance, you're there much quicker, but you can definitely get the assistance you need any emergency surgery or planned surgery, scheduled surgery, you can definitely do it in Santo Domingo. I would recommend doing it there instead of Punta Cana, but you can also get something not too complicated done here in Punta Cana as well. So we do have many options. You just have to know where to go, which day, and just get context. Again, as I keep mentioning, you need local context to give you referrals for doctors. And there are certain doctors that are known in the country by being the best in certain specialties. Last but not least, very important to know that the cost of seeing doctors, getting consultation, and everything else is not nearly as expensive as it is in the US, right? So if you need to get a consultation with a specialist, again, depending on the specialist, they will typically charge, I'm just throwing a random number here, typically 5,000 pesos, around $80-$90 per consultation. And your insurance would mostly cover 80% of that, right? So you would be paying very little out of pocket if seeing one of the most expensive specialists, and if seeing a regularly priced one, you would be paying nothing out of pocket, right? So by having a health insurance here, you're not paying so much out of pocket. You don't have a lot of copay. You're covered in 90% of cases. And that's a very nice benefit about having health insurance and seeing really great doctors in the Dominican Republic. Number 7 is, what is the biggest cultural difference foreigners struggle with when moving to the DR? I would say the biggest one, the biggest one for me as well, was getting used to island time. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, you have to learn. This is just a joke that people use here, like what mañana, what tomorrow in the Dominican Republic really means, or in any island in general. Things can get delayed, and let's say you're taking an order, for example, for if you're getting a contractor, let's say, and you need something fixed in your apartment, something minor, whatever, and you call them a plumber. Hey, guy, I need you to come to my apartment. When can you come? And they're gonna say, okay, I'll be there at 5 p.m. The reality is they may or may not be there at 5 p.m. They may be there at 7, or they may come the following day completely. So that's something that was a struggle for me to just get used how people use, especially the contractors, delay things a bit, local contractors, that is. And yeah, you just have to get used to the fact that not everything is instantaneous, that the customer service is going to take a bit longer than you're used to. But it also builds patience a lot. I've learned not to get bothered by that, and I've learned to get better contacts that actually come at least within the 3-hour time frame when they say they're gonna come. Because there's absolutely, I believe, nobody that they come. If they tell you at 5 p.m., they come 5 p.m. sharp. Never happened in the Dominican Republic. In my 6 years of being here, not once has that happened. So people are always delayed, and that's something that you have to get used to, because as people say, they live on island time, right? So everything is a little relaxing. It can be done tomorrow, no rush. That is the biggest cultural difference, something you would have to get used to. But if you're coming to a place like this, it just makes sense, to relax a little and not expect that instant rush and instant resolving of anything. That's the biggest difference for sure. You would have to get used to. The next one is a highly important topic a lot of people ask, and it's, what is the cost of living actually like? And is it cheaper or more expensive than people think? I would say it's more expensive than people think. So it's not the cheapest place to live at. And it also actually depends on how you want to live. It depends on your lifestyle 100%. So if you want to live in a high-end gated community area that feels like a first world country, that has food delivery 24/7, that has so many amenities you're used to back home, you're not going to live cheap. You're going to pay high for rent or owning a property because you have all those added benefits that you have back home. Of course, only with the beach in front of you or 2 minutes away. You have different supermarkets here at different levels, right? You do have, compared to the US, it is more affordable for sure. But of course, if you buy organic food, if you're buying, high-end produce and everything else, you're going to be paying more. It really depends on your lifestyle, what you consume, how many times you go out. Say for every time you have dinner outside here in Cap Cana, you're going to be paying per couple at least $100 per night. Now, I know for a fact $100 per dinner is not much, or $150 even per couple, because every time I'm in the US and I go out to eat, we pay per couple at least $300-$400. So this is definitely not as expensive. But again, it really depends on your lifestyle. If you're going to be eating out every day, you can expect not to spend a lot of money. But again, compared to the US, depending on the lifestyle you had back home, It's going to really determine how much money you spend here and how cheap or expensive it is. But I would definitely say it's more expensive than people tell you it is, because living here, you're gonna want to go out, you're going to want to socialize, buy quality stuff, and it's going to be more expensive than people say, right? But again, I've done a lot of videos on the supermarkets in general pricing, so you can check. I'm going to link them above, so you can just take a look at the prices when things actually cost in the Dominican Republic. That video I did was for a Nacional supermarket, which is the highest end with the best products supermarket in the whole Punta Cana. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's a couple of more that just opened the past 10 days. And they also have certain products that are more affordable. And everything here is located 15, 20 minutes away at most by car, right? So you can always go and check and see what works best for you. But in general, to recap, you're going to be spending money. If somebody tells you, oh yeah, you can move to the Dominican Republic, you can go to Punta Cana and, live off of $1,000 a month. No, you can't. Impossible. And just in rent alone, you're going to be paying them that amount at least, and then come the groceries, eating out, and a bunch of other things. So you're looking at least $3,000 a month to live comfortably. At least that's kind of the minimum you need to be making to live a comfortable life of eating out, not thinking about money. That's just my projection. Of course, it all depends on your own preferences and how you live your life. The next one we've got, question number 9, is where do people meet friends and build a community here? Is it lonely moving abroad? Again, this is something that's going to depend on you very much. If you're an extrovert as a person, you're going to be making friends much more easily. And if not, it's going to be a bit harder. But for sure, what I can tell you is that there's a lot of expat communities and expat groups. What you can do is also you can start on Facebook. Facebook is packed with expat groups on Punta Cana and other parts of the Dominican Republic. They even now started organizing weekly and monthly meetups in restaurants where a bunch of people meet, and this is how you start making friends, at least if you don't actively do it when you're on the beach or elsewhere. But a lot of clients of mine, especially those that are very friendly, they have met so many people down here and they're not even living here yet. So for example, they go to the beach, they meet at least 5 or 6 families, they exchange contacts, just start building that community, right? Local community with a lot of local friends. It can feel lonely, but it depends on you, right? It's up to you to change that. And there's definitely a lot of opportunity to meet friends and meet new people because, again, as I mentioned, the expat community is growing every single year in Punta Cana. It has grown so much that now we have these, again, groups on Facebook where people do meetups and such. More in Punta Cana, I would say, than in other places. Punta Cana, Cap Cana, all people from these areas are in these groups. So they would typically organize these meetups. But I would say Punta Cana has way more expats compared to the north of the island and in other areas as well. But the north is also growing with the expats. Yeah, so the entire country is having a huge influx of people moving here permanently. And I believe you would definitely have a great time, meeting new people. Again, you do have to work for it a little. You can't just sit and expect people to come to you. It's not going to happen. You have to be a little bit active and just engage with others as well. But there's definitely a lot of opportunity to do so. And the last question we're going to cover for today, the one that I try to cover as much as I can every time I get a new client, is it true that the real estate market has no rules in the Dominican Republic and anyone can be an agent? And how do you protect yourself as a buyer? Yes, it is true. It doesn't have a lot of rules. All the rules we have are unwritten, to put it that way. There's no laws that protect realtors to begin with, and buyers as well. There are laws to protect buyers, realtors zero, but buyers yes. However, the only way to protect yourself fully as a buyer is to work with an experienced local agent that knows what they're talking about, that knows what they're doing, and they know what properties to show you and what properties are good to purchase, right? Because you don't want to deal with one that's just going to sell you anything you see online. Because unfortunately, to this day and age, we still have a lot of scam online in the Dominican Republic. Where there's demand, scammers see the opportunity to just post a lot of listings and try to scam you, try to get your money. It's always going to happen. It happens in the US, Canada, it happens everywhere worldwide. Wherever there's interest, scammers take advantage of it. So the only way to protect yourself is to get a good local agent, and they will, trust me, protect you from all of these scams that you see online. But you have to help yourself as well and not fall into the trap of seeing $50,000 on the beach and reserving it don't do it, right? Just don't just randomly send money to people who promise they're gonna get you the property, or $50,000 for property that's 5 minutes away from the beach. It is not. It's 1 hour away for sure. So there's so many scams that, just by talking to somebody who's honest, a local honest agent, and to verify they're honest, just ask for a contact of any of their clients. They should be able to send you their clients you can speak to. If you're that scared, if you don't feel comfortable with somebody, of course, don't do it at all. But if you do want somebody to kind of corroborate their story and to get experience from somebody who's purchased with that person, just ask them for contacts of their clients. I'm sure a good agent for sure should have at least 5 to 10 people who would be willing to talk to another client and, of course, explain and give some feedback on how their process was and if everything was good, etc. So definitely, if you do need so, do that, or check their Google reviews, check their social media, But again, the best way would be for sure to talk to somebody who has gone through the process and, of course, check everything about them online as well. So just make sure you get somebody good locally and you will be safe and you won't go through any of the horror stories that you see online. Guys, that was it for today's Q&A video. I hope it definitely helped a lot of the doubts and fear and the questions that you have when even considering investing or coming to live in the Dominican Republic. If you guys have any suggestions of any other topics that we should cover, any other questions that always pop into your mind, definitely leave them, drop them down in the comment section. Make sure to cover them in one of my future videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this very helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in all of my future videos as well. Make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you want to keep seeing many more of these. And I wish you guys a great rest of the week. Happy 2026, and see you soon, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.